encourage you to get that figured out, because you are the new generation. You are the ones that are being taken off the streets, either by jail, prison, death, drugs. All these things are hurtful to me as a mother, as a community person, as someone who is in the trenches trying to save you all. So the bigger issue for me is, what are you doing? What place are you in when this happens? Because we can't always blame the police. And don't get me wrong, I got some gripe for my... I do. Don't get me wrong. But I want you all to start paying attention to where you are, what you're doing, and what it's creating. And how are you making these officers react to your actions? So I'm going to stop right there and let these...
Yeah, so just to reiterate the question, what troubles you most about the events happening in Ferguson, and how do they impact us? What's the relationship between what's happening over there in Missouri, protests, killings in New York, and how do they affect us here in South Carolina? So what relationship?
Okay, I'll go. I didn't do a complete introduction, I guess I probably should have. If you don't know me, first of all, I see my old coach back there, Coach Payne. Hi, Coach. So, first off, I want to say, I'm appointed by the governor on POST. POST is the Office of Peace Officer Standards and Training, where the manual for police officer training is written. I'm currently the president of San Jose Silicon Valley NAACP. So for me, I'm going to quote Marcus Garvey here, and he says, I'm sitting next to a history teacher, history is the landmark by which we are directed to the true course of life. So as history will dictate to us, we know that the NAACP was founded upon a time when there was lynchings in America. Lynchings almost every day of people of color, and particularly black people. Today in America, what is most troubling is the shooting of black men and brown men for seemingly no apparent reasons. And seemingly even when they're unarmed or they're not even committing a crime, it's a constant time of season now where black men and young boys seem to become an extra threat. And every time that we go take it to the DOJ, Department of Justice, or sometimes to these other forms, there are always justified shootings. And the problem with that is it always seems as a lot of times their hands were up or they were unarmed. And so it is alarming that we see this today. And so as we really need to look at the standards and the training procedures, we're not talking about my friends here, Howard and Steve, San Jose PD, but what we're talking about police across this country. And what is alarming, what we're trying to do here today is make sure that we do not have a Ferguson-type event here in San Jose, so that we will always have a relationship. And one thing I can say is I know Howard, I know other officers, and we can call some of our officers on the phone before we have such tragedy happen. So that is what is alarming today. Is I have a 7-year-old son. I have a 6-year-old son. And most parents is I can teach him how to stay out of gangs. I can teach him how to stay away from drugs and drug dealers. But the fear is him having an encounter with a peace officer that may not be favorable to him and that he might not make it from that thing. And so that's what is alarming. Those are the bells that are going off in the communities across America today. Thank you.
I think for me, I'll sort of take the historical perspective on this too, is the thing that bothers me the most is how long-standing the problem is. This is not a new problem. This has been around for a long time. I mean, just going back to the onset of the civil rights movement itself, you look at a lot of the clashes, especially 1960s forward, that are sparked in a lot of urban areas, and a lot of the precipitating incidents that led to a lot of the reaction on the part of the communities was basically a traffic stop or an arrest, something that then escalated. So the clash between our police forces and our communities, especially the African American communities, have been very hostile for quite some time. We know this, and we know that there's an entrenched institutional memory that is very hard to shake. And that while some communities and some police organizations have done a really very concerted effort to try to change the culture, I think one of the things that has not changed is a lot of that culture is still very entrenched in a lot of forces that are about the country. And so, you know, you don't have to go very far back the last few years. We see a lot of these kinds of incidents where the hostility is there. And there's anxiety, there's fear on both sides. And the consequence, though, is that the person who is being, you know, looked at in a critical way, you know, especially young black men, they're the ones that are being detained, stopped, and they're the ones that are on the defensive, and they're the ones that end up generally suffering the consequences. And there's so many examples, not only with recent ones with Ferguson and Staten Island, but you don't have to go that far back to see, you know, Oscar Grant. And we have videos that people are taking of these incidents, and as the Reverend is saying, that, you know, the hands up, and yet still lethal consequences in a number of cases. So something has gone wrong that's been going wrong for a long time. And occasionally we have attention to it. We get, you know, Rodney King, we get, you know, an Oscar Grant, we get, you know, a Michael Brown, but we need to pay attention on a consistent basis, make a concerted effort, because this is institutional, this is deep, this is something that's, you know, very subtle, very hard to purge. And I think that's the thing that's disturbing for me, is just how long we've been at it, and yet we're still dealing with a lot of the same core problems.
Thank you for sharing that. I just want to make one comment. Not too much, but I just want to remind people that institutions have longer memory than human beings do, right? So we may not even be aware of the institutional memory of the history that we're speaking of,
right,
but they still exist, right? Okay.
Yeah, and there can be very, very good people within institutions, but the overall institution itself still has problems.
Absolutely. I'm going to repeat the question again and open it up for other folks in the panel to talk. What troubles you most about the events happening in Ferguson, and how do they impact our community here in San Jose?
Yes, something like that.
What was disturbing to me is the reaction from the community. And you can really tell by the reaction, there was no framework set in place between the police department and the community at all. In fact, it looked more adversarial than anything. But it gives us an opportunity to do things like this and to establish relationships. Something like this, something controversial will happen in San Jose. It's just a matter of time. When it does happen, it's nice to have the relationships in place where you can get the truth in a timely manner, where it doesn't look like things are being covered up. You don't feel like you're being lied to. The good thing that's come out of this, besides the opportunity for us to improve before something does happen, is I've had a lot of people make eye contact and actively smile and support me. Most of the people have called. And out of this incident, because there is this animosity, but there's an opportunity here for us to reach out and do some healing and develop relationships. So I'm encouraged by what I see. What I do see is an outstanding opportunity for young black men and women to go into law enforcement. And if you haven't thought about it, it might be a really opportune time for me to pursue that. And I always tell people, you know, you can rage against the castle wall, or you can go inside and get a job, start working in the kitchen, work your way up, and you can change things from the inside. So it's something for everybody to think about. How about you, Howard?
I'm really impressed with him, seriously. Well, to answer her question, what troubles me most about the events in Ferguson, like Officer said here, is how everybody rushed to judgment without the facts being, you know, as a personal, on my personal side, when it happened and everything, when the news came out, not as a police officer, I had to do it myself. I sat down with one of my friends, an African-American man, and we talked about it. And first thing I said, my father always taught me, find out what the facts are before you jump to something. I really did not like how people were handling themselves and considered, you know, this is the way how we take care of things. That wasn't right, because a lot of people didn't even know the facts. A lot of people are jumping up and trying to make this an issue to go out and do bad things.